I think we do have some of these like stereotypes as runners that we have to keep breaking. So sort of the idea that like, oh, long runs are just gonna wreck you, or like everyone loses a toenail. I still think there's some of these out there that I'm like, we've got to get past acting like, runners just brave everything. Like we just push through it all because we're so tough.
So I feel like a lot of people listening are like in that bucket. And I talk with a lot of pro runners of like, what's your takeaway? What are you learning? This and that. I'm curious from your perspective of the 1,000+ runners that you've worked with, like what enables them to be successful? What enables them to continue to show up while they might have kids or a job or a partner or a dog or a cat or whatever it is that is also vying for their time and attention? Like how are the runners you're coaching getting out the door?
I think one of the things that I will often try to get people to do is to think a little bit beyond like having a race is a great goal. And it is often the thing that will get a lot of people out the door. But I usually think there is something else behind that. And it is the, like, why did you start running originally? It probably wasn't for a race most of the time. It was because you wanted to feel better, more energetic, you wanted to focus better, whatever kind of that is. And getting people more often to reconnect to that, like, gosh, when I finish my runs, I'm better all day, like, or I'm just happier, I feel better so I can deal with things. And it's a hard, like, the mental piece of coaching, it's not in a training plan, but it is a huge component of finding what's going to keep you showing up. And so often just getting people to dig down a little bit more and find that deeper reason, because even a race goal is a nice thing, but when it's, 5 months away, that goal sounds great and lofty. And then as you start getting into the real meat of training, sometimes you're like, I don't know if I really care that much, but gosh, I really like how strong I feel after I do that thing. And I hear that a lot from people who've never done speed work before because it seems so scary and so intimidating. And even starting with like the right level of workout so that you can feel like you really accomplished something instead of that something just beat you into the ground. It's so fun to hear them say like, oh my gosh, running fast is fun.
Yeah.
Like instead of scary and like this terrifying thing.
How do you get there? How do you help them get there, right? I guess that's $1 million question. But like today on the second half of my run, I was like, if I could bottle up this feeling, like I could sell it for $1,000 a dose. Like it was like one of those.
Yep.
And it took me an hour to feel that. And so I went through a period last year where I was lacking motivation, and a mantra that really stuck with me is motivation follows action. Mm-hmm. And you have to just fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
Quite literally. How do you help people do that? Like, what does that component look like?
You're right. And that is such a good mantra because it's very true. I think sometimes it's starting with even less than maybe their self-expectation. So their expectation is I need to run 35 miles a week, but like every time they try to run 35 miles a week. Yeah. So it's stepping way back sometimes, which is really hard as runners. We're used to like, but this is how fast I run and this is how far I run. And so it's getting people, and I will ask this question a lot of times at the very beginning, like, are you open to doing something different? Because it's probably going to take something different to get to where you want to go. And
right, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result.
Yep. And a lot of times too, if you're like, hey, right now I'm a 4:30 marathoner and my goal is a 4-hour marathon, then I have the conversation of, are you willing to do what it takes to be a 4-hour marathoner? Because that may mean you're spending more time on nutrition or you're actually going to sleep. And I think those are just valid questions to ask ourselves, like, oh, that goal is shiny and pretty and I want it. And it's a big jump. So maybe what if our goal is a 4:20 and we're not overhauling your life right now, but we're making little tweaks. So it may be a lot of times that we are scaling back mileage initially. We're starting with small workouts that feel like wins every time they're finished. And then momentum will build on itself. And that's usually like the goal. I'm like, if we can just get a little momentum and you can get a little excitement and a number of wins, then we can keep building and it's more enjoyable. And this should be enjoyable. We don't have to do it.
You mentioned something I wanted to bring up, which is nutrition. We're sitting here flanked by a bunch of Tailwind products.
Yep.
They're sponsoring both of our podcasts at the moment. I brought them on board because I love the recovery product that's 20 grams of protein and 500 milligrams of sodium, which as a sweaty boy, I need that post-run. How does nutrition play a role, right? We hear so much about high carb fueling for athletes who are, racing 2.5-hour marathons or doing Leadville and setting course records at 120 grams of carbs an hour. Like, how are you having conversations about carbohydrates and fueling again in the middle of the pack?
Yeah, I think this is an area where people have sort of misconceptions or ideas. Like you said, they know, okay, the front of the pack, they're fast. They need those carbs. But like, I'm out here longer. So for some reason, because I'm out here longer, I don't need as much fuel. And if you get people to actually say that out loud, it sounds insane, but that is the mindset. So it's been amazing that we have so many qualified sports-focused registered dietitians now that are sharing this information. And so I am constantly sort of pointing to them as like, here's the data, here's what they're saying, here's examples. And I think now that we have more of these studies showing like, hey, even hitting 60 grams of carbs per hour and look at the difference in performance, it is getting more people to be like, okay, I get this. I need to work on this. I will say the hardest group is really women my age and older, so 40s and up, which I think comes down to what we grew up in. We grew up in the calorie counting era. We grew up in the sugar-free era. We ate fat-free cheese.
Sounds like a horrible era.
It was awful. So people have a lot of these kind of just things that they don't,
bias.
that they've got to work through. And I see that a lot in our masters females athletes, and they're aware of it, but it does take them some time to work through it. And a lot of times I'm trying to get them to work directly with an RD. And that often will get them to make the shift. But yeah, it's a mindset. And I think that's hard.
I was listening to the SWAP podcast today, and they were talking about the use of carbs at different effort levels.
Mm-hmm.
And like everyone has 5 zones, and everyone can benefit from higher carb utilization and consumption at the top of zone 2 and bottom of zone 3. And that's where we're doing the majority of these endurance pursuits. If you're in zone 1, high carb fueling is not what you need. If you're in low zone 2, high carb fueling is not what you need. But like if you're running a marathon appropriately, or you're doing a long run appropriately, and you're in that high zone 2, low zone 3, like pushing above 50, 60, 70 grams of carbs, like try it.
Yeah.
And the first time I did a 2.5-hour long run where I was above 70 grams of carbs, I texted Stevie, who you know is a sports dietitian. I was like, Stevie, I ran for 2.5 hours this morning. I took in 70 grams of carbs an hour, and I don't feel like mush this afternoon. And I didn't need a nap. I didn't need to be glued to my couch. And I can only think of people who like have kids or have to go look after other things or whatever, and like can't sit on the couch for hours. Like It's not an option to not rest. Like you have to stay active and moving and do all these things. And so it's like you have this extreme advantage if you just try it.
I mean, I wish I could go back and tell 20-year-old me, because I did. I would do long runs and then lay on the couch all day. And I think that is our perception of what is supposed to happen.
Right.
Because
to be like wrecked. It's like, yeah, you did a great long run. You're
I didn't fuel at all. My first marathon, my dad handed me a couple of those chewy orange slices. That's what I had for the duration of the marathon. And that was about the level of nutrition information that was out there. Like there wasn't much. I was sort of like, goo doesn't sit well, because I didn't know anything about training your gut. But I think we do have some of these like stereotypes as runners that we have to keep breaking. So sort of the idea that like, oh, long runs are just going to wreck you, or like everyone loses a toenail, buy bigger shoes.
I don't know. Don't look at my feet. We got video cameras.
A long downhill trail run, like that's
yeah. How
hard.
about 40 miles of downhill?
Yeah. That's a different story than the majority. But I still think there's some of these out there that I'm like, we've got to get past acting like, runners just brave everything. Like we just push through it all because we're so tough.
Totally agree. And I was having this conversation with a friend because we both ran a bunch of marathons in our 20s. And I ran 259 when I was 29. And I probably took in 40 grams of carbs. And I bonked and like had the mental like, oh, dude, you came 20 miles at 6:40 something pace. Do not fuck this up now. And like closed it in sevens to finish it out. But I can only imagine like what would have happened if I hadn't bonked at mile 20. My training was awesome and I just ran out of gas.
Yeah.
And so like if I had doubled the fuel, like lightning, I had like the perfect day. The weather was great. The pacing was great. I nearly PR'd my half marathon in the first half. Like it was perfect. I was dialed. I got a pep talk from Shalane Flanagan like the night before. It was like crazy. And I just fucking bonked.
Yep.
And I'm like, what if I had 2 more gels an hour?
Yeah.
1 more gel an hour? Like, would that 259 be a 253 that felt amazing? Like, the number doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But it was like the time,
the whole experience changed. Yeah. Yep.
And so like in training for ultras, now I've been doing a minimum, or I end up averaging like 75 grams an hour. Again, like when above middle of zone 2, and I run for 5 hours and feel great. Like I took in 500 grams of carbs in a race, and that was low. That was like 55 grams an hour. And I was like, what if I had dialed that up? And I felt amazing after the race. I was really wrecked from the downhill, but it's just wild. Like if the training is there and you just keep putting the fuel in, you can keep going.
Yeah. Dina Castor, way back when, and she wasn't the first one to say it, but she would say, fat burns in a carbohydrate flame. And it was a reminder for people who were trying to like not take in fuel because it would burn fat, that's not really how it works. Like you have to have the fuel for your body to create fuel sources. And I do feel like the number of phone calls I've had lately with people who are training for their first marathon, and that has been kind of one of the biggest things I've said over and over is I really, really want you to think about nutrition. Like if I could go back and change one thing, like I still loved my first marathon, but I definitely cried like multiple times the last 6 miles because I had no fuel.
Nothing was on board.
Yeah. But I'm like, if I could get you to, I know you're focused on the training plan and you're excited to have a coach and you want to strength train, and these are all amazing, but I need you to start practicing fueling right now, like right now, because your gut's going to take some time to get used to this. And you mentally, it is a weird mental thing to be shoving things in your face while you're running. So like, yeah, I feel like the sooner we can all start practicing it, man.